Also in the news, petrol scarcity is still biting hard across the country. The queues are not reducing, and the NNPC has said that it sent out enough trucks to make sure that the products gets to far-flung corners of the country. But we're still seeing the queues. It seems as if those queues are increasing. Let's bring in a business news anchor and co-anchor on Business Morning, Bolaji Akinwale, as we talk about developments in the Nigerian energy market. Good morning to you, Bolaji.
Good morning, Harriet.
And yes, I'm going to surcharge you. You came in late today. Tell me it's because of the fuel queues, or you were queuing for petrol?
The fuel. Well, there is no fuel in my car.
Oh dear.
Then I have to stay in traffic. You cannot put on your AC. You can imagine what that means for you. And you have to rush down to the office to get the program.
So if you, who is supposedly coming against traffic, had to go through that, you can imagine those who are going into the metropolis, who are going to the island, going into Ikeja and the rest of it. The traffic is humongous. The NNPC says, look, we've sent out trucks and they're going to be bringing them. So the marketers should rally around, get the truckers to get this product out, but nothing seems to be happening.
Thursday is a long time when you look at the pressure that people have to face on a daily basis. You cannot imagine what it takes to be in traffic without fuel. And you're always looking at your fuel gauge. You say, oh, I hope this fuel, this doesn't go red. And you always pray, oh, Lord.
You bring out your calculator. You bring out your calculator. and you just wish that somehow you can't calculate the liters. I think we need to have that introduced on the calculators. How to calculate the amount of liters you have in your tank.
Let's calculate some figures before we get back to that, Harry.
Okay.
I know that we were talking to Dolakoni in a short while, but let's just give it the numbers as to how these stocks, the oil stocks on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, actually fared yesterday. Very surprisingly, we have some very wonderful performance from these quoted companies, the oil stocks now. I'm going to start off with Fort Oil. Fort Oil, though, we saw it's recording the biggest drop in terms of percentage change. Yesterday, it was down 9.75%, pulling 20,337 volume of shares. We saw the closing price for that at 308 naira 66 kobo. Mobile actually pulled 1.90% price percentage change. That was a very positive one for Mobile. 39,039 units of shares were recorded, and we saw the closing price at 159 naira 95 kobo. MRS was unchanged yesterday. The closing price 47 naira 18 kobo. Owando pulled a 5.72% gain, pulling the highest units of shares among the stocks that we track for you on the show. 7.4 million units of shares yesterday for Owando. Seplat, again, that in the positive territory, 0.95% increase. We're looking at the closing prices, 352 naira 30 kobo. 230,488 units of shares was pulled by Seplat. We saw Total unchanged at 145 naira per share, and we have Konoe dropping by almost 5%, pulling 107,805 units of shares. In terms of the daily index return of the oil stocks, we saw that in a negative territory, 4.39%. The year-to-date, 0.8%. The price to earnings, 29.3. We're looking at the dividend yield at 2.3%. And the big story right now, like Harriet rightly said, we're seeing queues still getting longer at the filling stations. Nigerians are not finding this times enjoyable at all. You have to queue for endless hours for petrol that you're not sure that you would get. Okay, we're looking at prices in Lagos. Abuja, states like Kaduna, Nasarawa on the increase. We're seeing the black markets dominating activities at the oil markets. We're looking at the fact that you have to pay as high as 130 naira per litre of petrol. Of course, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has said that it is working tirelessly to ensure that it discharges and ensure full distribution of fuel cargoes that it has ordered for. We'll get back to that later on as Harriet will discuss it. But let's look at other stories on the market. Saudi Arabia and Iraq actually battling Nigeria to gain more market share from India, the world's third largest crude oil importer, with two Middle East countries' oil exports hitting the highest levels in more than a decade in the month of January. According to the NNPC data, India was the highest buyer of Nigerian crude with over 127 million barrels for January. And just before I bring in Dolapo, just to let our viewers know that the Consumer Protection Council and the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission had actually agreed to enforce a mandatory 60-day order to electricity distribution companies to either meter or stop billing the customers under the Credited Advance Payment for Metering Implementation Scheme. NERC had, in its recent directive to the companies, said that any customer who elected to procure meters under the CAPME scheme must be metered within 60 days. Okay, let's bring in Dolapo at this point. A whole lot to chew over as we take a look at the Nigerian energy markets. Good morning, Dolapo.
Hello, Bolaji. Good morning.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I hope that you're able to get to your office without any hassles this morning.
Well, you know, Lagos, you try and leave earlier once you know the queues are on the way.
Okay, let's talk about this electricity market, which I think every Nigerian is very interested about because you have to ensure that you get fuel in your generator. You're not sure if you'll be having electricity for days. But let's talk about the fact that the CPC and the NERC had actually told electricity distribution companies to either meter customers or stop billing those under the Credited Advance Payment Metering Implementation Scheme. What's your take on this new development?
Well, I mean, it's something we've always said that metering is very important, and the distribution companies sort of have not done enough of that. Now, what you must also recognize is the fact that there was a significant debate about usage of foreign or versus local meters, which I think the NRC and pretty much the government was trying to push the discos to use locally manufactured stroke assembled meters. But the discos didn't want to because they felt they were not as reliable, they could be easily bypassed, and they preferred to use the foreign meters. So that essentially put a stall on metering pretty much since 2014. And that's why they didn't really continue with the CAPME program, the CAPMI program. But as it is right now, if they can get if they can get the discos to actually have more confidence in the local meters in such a way that they can't be easily bypassed and people will get power for free, then maybe they'll go ahead with the metering because they need to meter more so that they can also collect more. And if they collect more, then they can take on more power and give more power.
I think at this point in the electricity market, we ought to have gone beyond these challenges because the issue of metering didn't just begin at this point. Why are we having this issue at this point?
You know, the problem now is that it's quite apparent now, particularly that the major Achilles heel of the system right now is the distribution end. And for the distributors or for the distribution companies to actually solve that problem, they need to be able to collect more revenues and not this estimated billing that a lot of people get. And for them to even stop the estimated billing, they need to meter properly. But unfortunately, even when they meter, you go to several parts of even Lagos and around Nigeria, people bypass the meters, they don't pay as much as they should pay. So the distribution companies are sort of caught up in the middle. If they decide to meter a lot more and meter everybody, what's the guarantee that light will not just be going for free to a lot of people? So I think they're sort of caught in that mix, but it doesn't change the fact that that investment still has to be made. The metering still has to be done. And then gradually we can start to tackle the issue of, maybe criminal collection, illegal connections, the bypassing of meters and all that. But the reason why it's coming up really now is because that's where the real issue is now, the distribution end of the chain.
Okay. Just before I let you go, Dolapo, there's a very interesting story that got to us this morning saying that despite the dwindling crude oil prices, the energy, mining and utility sectors championed the merger and acquisition deals in 2015. That's one of the latest reports we're getting from the merger market, saying that about 28% of the $3.2 billion deal was from the mining and utility sectors. What's your view on this report?
Sorry, I didn't really catch that question.
We saw about the utilities sectors, the mining sectors and the energy market in the country actually got about 28% share of the $3.2 billion deals that was recorded in the market last year. How does that come to you?
I mean, clearly, yeah, because they were pushed to, I mean, a lot of companies had to resort to those mergers and selling out of stakes to survive as the impact of the lower prices started to hit. So we saw in some spaces, we saw some deals happening as people try to, you know, there are various ways you can survive this kind of time. And one of the key ones is to see how you can pull synergies together, which is you sell down on assets you can't work on, you sell down on properties, assets you're not able to utilize, getting some cash, which you can use to sort of survive. And I think that was why in the energy space particularly, which was hit by the lower prices, that's where we saw a lot of that happen. We saw a lot of other methods operators used. I mean, I was speaking to an operator last week. He was talking about the fact that payments you should be collecting in dollars, they have to be picking it in naira just to ensure that they have some revenues coming in. So there are various things that happened last year, but I think the mergers and acquisition is just one of them.
Okay, all right, Dolapo, thank you so much for your time. That'll be all. Dolapo Oni there, the head of energy research at EcoBank Group. Harriet, have you got light now? Because I think I had light in the past 12 hours for the first time in about 3-4 days.
Bolaji, don't get me started. Don't get me started. But you see, just like Dolapo said, that yes, they're looking. The distribution companies, generation companies are looking to, you know, gather more revenue. But let's do this properly. And yes, you know, we've been reading about it. They're starting it, but it's not as quickly as we wanted to.
I think we've waited for so long, and for us to begin to have this hiccups doesn't seem to go well with us.
Maybe they should also be looking the way of the energy companies and thinking about possible mergers and maybe acquiring those, you know, other companies that can't totally meet up to, you know, expected demand.
Of course, when you look at the fact that many of these companies are relying on forex to get all the materials in, they may have to consider merging. We saw mergers and acquisition last year, 28% of $3.2 billion. I think more of this should happen.
Yeah, okay.
In the market.
But not a lot of people are going to be happy with you for saying that. So you said it, I didn't. But we're going to take a quick break now on the program, and we're still focusing on the state of the oil and gas industry. I'll be joined by Okpeme Oguntade, Senior Investment Officer with Financial Derivatives Companies after now. Join us again.